Hi everybody, welcome back to Sketch to Sea. Today I'm going to discuss how building a yacht is much more involved than building a full custom home. Today I'm going to introduce you into the different players involved, namely the naval architect and the manufacturer or builder. One of the reasons for the complication of yacht building versus home building is, one, your home is essentially moving and you need to have life support systems available wherever you are in the world, and expect to be in remote places and have something not work. So again, redundancy is imperative here. So where do you start with these two players involved? How do you narrow down the selection? How do you isolate it from the large group of players in the market down to somebody that you're willing to work with? First of all, what is a naval architect and what type of services do they provide? A naval architect is responsible for the design, engineering, speed, weight, and trim of a marine-going vessel. Yes, this does include oil platforms and submarines. For our intents and purposes, we narrowed it down to somebody who specializes in sailing catamarans and more specifically had expertise in carbon-constructed sailing catamarans. We did this for what we think was obvious reasons. We didn't want somebody that specialized in designing submarines and oil drilling platforms designing our permanent new home as a full custom carbon catamaran. Those criteria alone really narrowed down the options to only a few naval architecture firms that specialized in sailing catamaran and full carbon construction. So now that you've narrowed it down to the type of naval architect that you're looking for, how do you find this person? For me, it was relatively easy. All I had to do was go out and look for the best sailing carbon catamarans that were available on the market. At the time when I started this process many years ago, that was specifically gunboat catamarans. I further went in to figure out who designed all these gunboats, and one firm specifically kept coming up, and it was Morelli and Melvin Naval Architecture. Morelli and Melvin Naval Architecture originally started building full carbon racing yachts. Most notably was one of their yachts PlayStation. They also assisted in the development of the fluid dynamic algorithm for some of the America's Cup racing yachts. Their pedigree is extensive, and I don't feel I need to go into it much further. I was sold. Now, this isn't to say that I didn't interview a couple of other naval architects out there. Gino Morelli from Morelli and Melvin Engineering was a great resource and pointed me in the right direction of the yards that he used to build these phenomenally designed gunboat catamarans. As it turns out of the 15 or 20 gunboats that they had designed, they were built in many different factories across the globe. Several of these factories have now closed their doors permanently and no longer were available, and I couldn't actually get anybody on the phone. So after further investigation, I kept looking for a link between naval architect and manufacturer and who was building all of these phenomenal boats out there. As I've said, several of these companies have already closed their doors. But after further investigation and research, I found one company that built 4 gunboats that weren't designed by Morelli and Melvin, but they were still built in the same yard. That yard is located in Xiamen, China, and is named Hudson Yacht Marine. They built 4 gunboat catamarans under the gunboat franchise and name before realizing or making the decision that they thought they could do a better job. So they have the facilities, they have the experience, they have the knowledge and resources. All they needed was a naval architect. So with the necessary knowledge, skills, experience, and ability, Hudson Yacht Marine made the decision to start their own brand. They bought in an expert shipbuilder from New Zealand named Paul Hakes and reached back out to the original designers for the gunboat boats, Morelli and Melvin Engineering. This essentially formed what I thought was the perfect group to design and build a full custom carbon catamaran. So once Hudson Yacht Group brought in Paul Hakes, HH Catamarans was formed. This is a very brief summary into a long, complicated history about the formation of HH Catamarans. And as soon as I got HH Catamarans involved, with the assistance of Morelli and Melvin, we were on a track that was set to build. We were ready to go. Morelli and Melvin spent many hours adjusting our general arrangement and trying to design something that would work for us specifically in the future. These hours that they spent developing all of this was done on a soft commitment from us that we wanted to build a boat of our range. Keep in mind at this point, HH Catamarans has never built a boat of our size as of yet. There was a lot of good faith operation on behalf of Morelli and Melvin and HH Catamarans that allowed us to develop and design and work with the GAs and the arrangements of our boat that we wanted to work for us. Finally, it came down to them doing preliminary pricing and what actually worked for our budget. And keep in mind, Morelli and Melvin and HH Catamarans went back and forth many times and had many different cost proposals for us. Finally, we settled on a number, or at least we thought we did at the time, and hit the go button. As I said in the previous episode, getting on one of these boats now was imperative. So this is when we finally went to a boat show. We have already signed our contract and committed to building with this naval architect and this manufacturer. I will get into the details of the contracting in another episode, but for now, this is when we felt comfortable to go to a boat show, and we went under the invitation of HH Catamarans to view one of their catamarans that was at the Miami Boat Show that year. We were so happy when we went because finally we got to see in real life, firsthand experience, the fit, feel, and finish of their yachts. It was the utmost quality of any boat at the show in its category by far. So one of my principal concerns wasn't that HH Catamarans and Morelli and Melvin couldn't build a boat that we wanted or to our fit and finish or quality, was how would it look after a transatlantic? Because a lot of these boats flex. Some of the larger fiberglass built catamarans have many feet of flex from point to point, whereas you get into these carbon boats and there's minimal flex from point to point. This translates into a significant long-term cost savings. For example, in an 80-foot fiberglass catamaran that you've done a transatlantic to, there can be so much flex within that hull and on the wing deck that your drawers won't open, your doors won't close, or even worse, your door will be stuck closed. And as soon as you arrive somewhere on the eastern seaboard, whether it's Florida or Annapolis or something like that, you have to do a complete interior refit just to use your boat again. Whereas carbon construction, with the level of engineering that is done by Morelli and Melvin and specified for HH Catamarans, these boats flex minimally. There is one of their boats out there that has done several transatlantics, has done zero interior refit, and still perfect fit and finish on the interior. So contract negotiations went back and forth, and we contracted directly with the manufacturer and asked them to subcontract with Morelli and Melvin. This eliminates the finger pointing, but I get onto that in the contracting episode. So from here, what did we do next? Now that we knew that we needed to see one of these yachts firsthand, we booked a plane ticket to China and went for a tour of HH Catamarans. We were met with great hospitality, and HH were excellent hosts to us. We spent a week in China in total at this point and toured their yard for 4 out of the 7 days that we were there. We were able to get on a couple of their other boats that they had. They had 155 that was being packed down for shipping. They had 2 66s, one that was nearing getting packed for delivery, and then they had a shell that was just off the molds but had all the bulkheads installed. It was a great opportunity to tour this factory and see the cleanliness and the methodology behind the building and construction of these fantastic yachts. Being able to see these yachts at several different states, from shell to final paint and finish to pack down to shipping, it was a phenomenal experience to be able to actually physically touch and feel the seams where the hulls would have been laminated together, where the bridge deck was mounted to the hull. A lot of people are concerned about, in China, how good can it be? Well, I've already given you an example of a boat that's done transatlantic crossings and had no interior refit or refinish. This boat also holds several race titles as well. Again, Morelli and Melvin designed, HH Catamarans built. So also at this factory tour, we had the opportunity to sample some of their fit and finishes. And when I keep saying that this is full custom, yes, they had 60 different countertop selections. They had different carbon fiber weaves available. They had paint chips from everything. And it was just a great opportunity to touch the fabrics that go inside your boat. It was really important for us to actually know that every part of these yachts were engineered to the highest level using the finest materials for the best fit and finish possibly available on the market. Now that we were thrilled with the naval architect we've selected, had a full tour of the yard, and thrilled with what they could come up with and build, we were sold. We knew this is the boat, the naval architect, and the yard that we wanted to use for our custom project. The next big question was financially, how feasible was it? Were we asking too much? Were we designing too big? Were we living well beyond our means? This process itself took a fair bit of back and forth, and this is where some of the compromise happened. I'm not going to say we compromised a lot, because in my mind we absolutely did not. It just took a lot longer to get through this process than I would have liked. But that's a whole nother story for a completely different episode. That concludes today's video. Thank you everybody for watching. And please like, subscribe, share, and as always, if you want to talk about boats or yachts, reach out to me at sketchtosea@gmail.com. Thank you very much. Hope to see you again soon.